Now our keynote, Dr. Aimée Surprenant, will deliver her words of advice. Dr. Aimée Surprenant is Dean of the School of Graduate Studies and Professor in the Department of Psychology. She completed her Bachelor at New York University and her Master of Science and PhD at Yale University. An expert in the intersection of auditory perception and memory, Dr. Surprenant is the co-author of 2 books, Human Memory, An Introduction to Research, Data and Theory, and Principles of Memory. She has also authored, edited, and contributed to numerous book chapters, papers, publications, and other scholarly articles. Let us give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Bahar. Good morning, and I want to add my voice to Dr. Kechnowski and Dr. Reynolds and welcome you to Memorial University. I think you will find a wealth of opportunities here, and I urge you to make the most of your opportunities both within and without the classroom, the laboratory, and wherever else your scholarship takes you. I should mention that Dr. Reynolds and Dr. Kechnowski might need to duck out at some point because they're doing all kinds of other orientation opportunities, so don't take it as offense if they run out of the room, and I certainly won't. Before I start my presentation, I want to make sure to acknowledge Ashley Hurley for arranging the events, as well as the GSU, our MUSEP student Emma, and all the rest of the staff in the School of Graduate Studies who chip in whenever it's necessary. It's truly a team effort. As has been mentioned, graduate school is a time of great discovery, not just about your content area, but a lot about yourself. It's here you learn, sometimes for the first time, how resilient you can be when faced with challenges. Most of you out there have always been the smartest person in the room. And you're very used to being successful at everything that you do. Unfortunately, that's likely to change very soon, and you'll have to work to overcome challenges. And again, as Dr. Reynolds mentioned, you will sometimes fail at something. We've all failed. And the important thing is to take that failure and work with it and use that to move forward. Luckily for you, you're not alone in the journey towards pushing the limits of your abilities and seeking and gaining new knowledge and new paradigms for academics and for life. The university community is particularly well suited to advise, guide, and assist you in the next phase of your life. We've all been there, so we've all got that experience. So one of the things that you have to do is try and keep a sense of humor in succeeding in your graduate program. And there's a great comic called PhD Comics. Jorge Chan writes it, and you should look it up because you're going to find that your experiences are not unique, that many students, and not just PhD students, master's students go through the same sorts of things that you're going through. Now this is actually the grad school, the game of life, and as you might notice, it's an infinity symbol. So what I want to encourage you to realize is that we don't want your graduate program to go on infinitely, and so you have to try and figure out and come up with strategies for breaking out of that infinite loop and making sure that you actually continue at some point or finish at some point. So I'm going to give you 5 sort of general pieces of advice on how to succeed in your graduate program, and the first is to make a plan. The second is to be prepared to adjust that plan, communicate, develop your skills, and take advantage of the resources that are available. So what's your plan? Well, there are a lot of resources out there to help you figure out how to specifically write down your plan. And I encourage you to actually literally go through and make a plan. And I'll give you some advice on how to do that. And the first thing as an academic that I did was I looked up the literature on how to make a good plan. And there's a very large literature on the best ways of putting together a plan for anything. But graduate programs are particularly useful. It's a particularly useful thing. The first is to assess your skills, your values, your interests. I think you've already done that. You need to develop your goals and write the plan. Discuss that plan with your mentors. Execute your plan. And then, of course, revise and change the plan as events come along. There are lots of online resources that are available. This is just one that I found that's free. It's called the Individual Development Plan, and it's specifically for science students, but it can be generalized to anyone, really. And this particular program provides exercises to help you examine your skills. There's tools for setting strategic goals and reminders, and they'll send you emails and things like that. There's no charge. You can just go and sign up for it and use it if it's useful to you. If you're not a person who likes that sort of thing, then don't use it. But if you are, I encourage you to find something like this. So your plan should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. This is a tool that I got, again, online, which is a plan that has actual timelines and dates in it. And I'll show you how to access it, but it's an Excel spreadsheet, and you can fill in your own plan and change the bars and things like that. It's a really useful thing to do, and it's got some categories in there: literature review, proposals, ethics, etc., writing. But I do again encourage you to specifically write down a plan and try and keep with it. This set of toolboxes is available from ithinkwell.com. It's a professor in Australia who has put together a set of free online toolboxes, and I'll show you again how to get them in just a second. If you're in a course-based program, you also need a plan, and you need to make sure to know what courses that you need. Do your core courses first, then your electives. Check with your department about when courses will be offered. Make a plan for those semesters where a course that you need isn't offered. You need to be aware that sometimes that happens. And always plan for the end near the beginning. But you have to be willing to adjust that plan. It really looks, when you're looking at people like Dr. Reynolds, Dr. Kechanowski, it looks like their lives have gone in a beautiful straight line. From the beginning, they decided they wanted to be the president of the university or the deputy provost, and that was their goal, and they went from the beginning to the goal. Is that what happened? No. It's a lot more like the second line, where really there's a lot of backtracking, there's difference and changes in goals, and success is never actually really reached. We never feel like we're successful. I still tell people I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, because I still haven't figured it out. And so we could call this the long and winding road, or different ways of switchbacks, etc. But it's also not flat. It's got lots of hills in it. And so your road is going to consist of a roller coaster of good things and bad things. And if those of you who are doing research will find that the research roller coaster is particularly exciting, but can also be particularly depressing at times. And so sometimes you'll have a great success, your lab work will work out, you're moving forward, you're doing good, you're in the green, and then something crashes. You can no longer, your data don't work out, you need to start over again and revise, and you send that paper off for publication and it gets rejected. And so you're going through this research roller coaster all of the time in your program. You're always going to be on the upside or the downside. And unfortunately, that doesn't change when you become a professor. You're always on that research roller coaster. You're writing that grant proposal that doesn't get funded, or papers that get rejected. I once got a review of an article that said that I hope that she finds something else to do with her life. Just like a little bit cold. So, and the other thing that's interesting is that we got reviews on a paper just a month ago, and my graduate student was all like, "Oh, these are terrible," and I was like, "What do you mean? These are the best reviews I've ever seen in my entire life. They said this was good," and he's like, "Yeah, but it's rejected." It's like, no. There's only like a few things to fix. So, ask people if you think that your stuff is just completely terrible. Ask them, and they'll tell you that actually you're being more critical than you need to be. Communication. I can't stress this enough. You have to communicate, and in particular, you need to communicate with your supervisor or your mentor. This is the big area where a graduate degree is so different from an undergraduate degree. You have to take charge of this relationship. You have to be the one who keeps those timelines. Your supervisor has a brain that thinks about themselves and their own research and how that's going. And they sometimes don't think about you. So you need to put yourself forward. You need to put together a plan for the two of you to move forward. And the way to do that is to communicate with them and to tell them what your goals are and to ask them for help if you need it. I was talking to a group of new faculty, and I told them that I get students in my office all the time who are really worried what their supervisor is thinking about them, that they sent their paper and they didn't get a response. And so they're up at night going, oh, he thinks it's terrible, he thinks I'm awful, blah, blah, blah. And he's actually off on a hike or, at a conference. He's not thinking about you at all. So really, the students perseverate about what their supervisors are thinking about you, and sometimes they're not. And so your job is to get them to think about you, to get them to think about your progress. And none of us, the faculty, are proud of the fact that we don't know what the rules are, right? We don't know what the timelines are. I don't know what committees you need to form. You need to figure that out, and you need to take charge of that. And again, the way to do that is to communicate. The role of the supervisors and the supervisory committees are key components for your success. That is one of the biggest components, is your relationship with your supervisor, and you need to take charge of that relationship. So communicate, meet regularly. Ask them for a regular meeting. I want to meet every Thursday at 9, and ask them for evaluation and feedback. Bring in an agenda. Take notes. Discuss those expectations, roles, and responsibilities, particularly if you're in a research or in a lab-based group. You need to know what your supervisor expects from you. Does the supervisor expect you to be in the lab at particular hours? Does your supervisor really expect you to come in on weekends to feed the animals or something like that? Find out what those roles and responsibilities are. For me, I'm a very hands-off sort of supervisor. I tend to let the student go and do their thing and then ask questions if they need to, but I'm not really very directive in what I want them to do. Some supervisors can't be like that they need to have their students in the lab at particular times or doing particular things. Figure out about data management. How am I supposed to save the data? How am I supposed to communicate the data with you? How am I supposed to share all of the things? So find out what those roles and responsibilities are. Find out what's expected of you. I had a student one time who used to call me all the time at 9 o'clock and say, oh, I'm going to be a few minutes late. And I was just like, well, I don't care. Why do I care? I don't pay attention to when my students are in and when they're not. But some supervisors do. And so find out what that role is. Discuss that. And in some cases, you might even want to make a contract. Become familiar with the appropriate deadline dates. And again, your supervisor will not know the deadlines and they will not keep track of them. Keep your supervisor informed about your progress. Discuss research scholarship ideas. Ask for guidance. Keep apprised of professional development opportunities along the way. We have some really great programs. There's an EDGE program that the School of Graduate Studies offers. There's a table downstairs. You can find out about all of those things. Discuss and uphold the standards of academic integrity. Talk to your supervisor about what is expected in terms of authorship, in terms of ethics, in terms of dealing with subjects if you're testing human subjects or animal subjects, etc. And clarify, again, issues of intellectual property, data management, and authorship. And I encourage you to write them down. And conflicts should be addressed and resolved in a respectful manner. So successful supervision depends on a healthy and productive relationship between the supervisor and the graduate student based on mutual respect and professionalism. You're now a junior colleague, and you need to act like one. So communicate also with the broader opportunity, look around. We've already talked about peers, the School of Graduate Studies, community engagement. Our community is wonderful and they welcome participation from everyone and take advantage of whatever opportunities come along. And again, students have a substantial responsibility for managing their own graduate education. Take initiative and be tenacious and ask questions. So I couldn't resist giving some specific advice. Treat graduate school like a job. I remember my first week, I had been going to school full-time undergraduate and working full-time at the same time. And I got to graduate school, I decided to quit all my jobs. I was just gonna focus on graduate school. And my first week I was sitting around going, what am I supposed to do? I'm not really sure. Well, if you sit down and you think about it, you go into the office and you work from 9 to 5, you actually find there's an enormous amount of things to do. And if you don't have anything to do, you're doing it wrong, okay? If you're bored, you are doing it wrong. So you really need to find out. You're always gonna need to read something, you're always gonna need to write something, there's always going to be something to do. Back up your data, make a backup your thesis, back up your presentations, back up your computer, back up all the things, okay? I can't tell you how awful it is to lose something. Just take it, it's easy now, and there's no excuses. And if you have your computer crash and you haven't backed it up, the first thing someone's gonna say is, have you backed it up? And then you're gonna have to punch them, and then you'll go to prison, and it's just back it up. Avoid all of those things. And find a topic that you can be passionate about, and hopefully you've already done that, but the programs that we have here at Memorial are amazing, and you can combine them, and you can go cross-disciplinary, but some of the ones that I find just looking at sound like so much fun. I wish I could go back to school. Ethnomusicology, even computational science sounds great, and you can combine any of them. And beware of the imposter syndrome. And Dr. Reynolds has already talked about this. We often think that there was a mistake made. Really, the only reason I got this position was because no one else applied. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And unfortunately, the people like you are the ones who are most likely to have the imposter syndrome. Those really smart people are much more likely to question themselves than anyone else. And why? It's because we push ourselves. We put ourselves in situations where we actually don't know what we're doing. And we do that deliberately because otherwise we'd be bored. And so because we push ourselves, we're almost always in that situation of, I have no idea what I'm doing, or the left shark or something like that. So don't be the left shark. And I found there's a whole bunch of cartoons on this, but this one I found exactly perfect for me, because all of the compliments I receive are from someone who's lying, or from my mom, you know? You're doing great, honey. I really am proud of you. It's like, no, Mom, that's not helpful. So really, no, that's not true. Compliments you receive are because you are fantastic. If you feel like you are an imposter, sit down and think about it. I was asked earlier what I do. I'm a cognitive psychologist, and so I always tell people to think about it. Conduct a thorough self-evaluation. Focus on your strengths. Use the supports that you have. Accomplish something that you can be proud of, and then dwell on that rather than on the failures. Compare yourself to an internal standard. Don't compare yourself to others. And don't internalize criticism. It's part of the environment. It can be helpful if you don't personalize it. You failed this test not because of something internal, but because of something external that you can change. And accept it as part of being human and how common it is. And again, we all have those situations. I still have no idea what I'm doing as Dean of Graduate Studies, but I make it up every day. So, I don't know if you're going to recognize this. This is Dilbert. Dilbert works in a cubicle. He hates his job. He hates his boss. Don't be Dilbert. You want to be Sheldon. Now, not the social side of things. You don't want to be Sheldon. But Sheldon loves what he does. And he gets up every morning and he is excited about it. And he tries new things. He's Superman. You are fabulous. You are awesome. You have the skills, the ability, and the knowledge to succeed. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. Make sure that you take advantage of the resources. The School of Graduate Studies landing page has every single important thing that you will ever need. Funding sources, registration, blah, blah, all the forms, etc. And then we've recently put together what I'm calling the MUN Graduate Commons, which is a Brightspace course shell that will have all kinds of tools and toolboxes that you can use. At the moment, it's got a little welcome video from me. All the new stuff will be there. The toolboxes will include ways of getting writing supports, and all of those planning tools that I showed you are available there. You're all signed up for this. All you need to do is to go to log in at the MUN homepage and online learning. When you sign up, you'll have a little square that says MUN Grad Commons. If you click on that, you can access all of these resources. But more than the static resources, what I'm hoping this will do is to form a bit of an online community of graduate students. It can be lonely as a graduate student, can be very isolating. And so I put together some online forums that I'm hoping that students will contribute to. None of them are going to be moderated, but things like putting together thesis writing groups, supports for families, or even fun stuff like what family events are there out there. And there'll be a dean's discussion group, which I will read, and I've asked a few questions already on it, and feel free to contribute. I really want to try and form a more cohesive group so that no one feels like they're alone. There's always someone out there listening. I've also enabled there's a capability where you can star someone's response, and so I want you to use that. And if someone gives you a particularly great response to something, give them 5 stars. And I'm going to maybe come up with some way of having some reward for the most stars in a month or something like that. I haven't yet figured all that out, but we'll try and generate that sort of thing. So again, remember, you're not expected to face the challenges of graduate school alone, and we have some great, I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to go through all of the faculty, but we have fabulous supervisors. These are just the ones who've won the President's Award for Outstanding Graduate Student Supervision. We have recipients of the 3M Teaching Fellowships. We have fabulous students, and I'll put your picture up here someday, hopefully, 3M Teaching Fellowships, Vanier's Awards. That we have a graduate student blog, so you can read the experiences of other graduate students who are similar to you. These are the students who are starting this year. And then the School of Graduate Studies is a resource for you, and I just put up an organizational chart with me, the dean, at the top. Importantly, can't see it. Carol Sullivan is the manager of all things money. So if you have any money problems, come see her. And then Andrew Kim manages everything else. So if you have any program questions, problems, thesis, etc., talk to Andrew. And then all of the people who are involved are fabulous, responsive human beings. And so when you send an email to sgs@mun.ca, a person reads it. And a person reads it every single day and responds to it every single day. So if you don't know who to contact, just sgs@mun.ca, and it will get to the right person. We had a session the other day, the office, on interacting with people in a respectful manner. And I also want to remind you that you should interact with our staff in a respectful manner as well. There are many stresses in your lives, and I understand that, but the staff are fabulous, and they're really there to help you. Uh-oh, I think I'm out of time. So we'll get to the time when we can say congratulations, and I was gonna say good luck, but luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunities. So good luck, be prepared, you've got lots of opportunities. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. I'm really getting into this Twitter stuff. It's a lot of fun. Thank you very much, and we'll turn it back over to Bahar.